to once again take center stage. They say Nigeria is giant of Africa, but over the years we've lost that edge, and this is the beginning of reclamation of that ultimate edge by repositioning sin as economic poverty. If you can show me one country, and the anomaly is that we are very resource rich, but energy poor, and by implication, economically poor. And that's what we want to change, starting from out of Nigeria, our home, where we have 40 billion barrels of oil reserves and over 210 TCF of gas. And as you saw our core values of collaboration, I believe at Renaissance, we're here to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Renaissance is indeed here to collaborate. This is Africa's Energy Awakening. Renee, the Managing Director, Engineer Tony Atta. Who are we?
But we need the No, let's wait. Okay. I want to see at least I'll show the undisputed. I think it's great to see where we are today after working with Shell and almost working for Renaissance around Nigeria's flagship connects supply and demand. In Nigeria, we also have two focus areas that are very important to the wider population. What do we do around the power issues? Yeah. And there are a lot of enablers that government is trying to put to ensure that all of this comes together and Nigeria sort of delivers its ambition of accelerating both its supply and its consumption. Quite a lot of stakeholders cutting across the industries from upstream to downstream, including midstream. Renaissance is part of it. We have just not yet onboarded the CEO, but it's part of his schedule to be onboarded, and Renaissance will be listed there as part of the critical stakeholders. They're already there under the IPPG umbrella, but they're big enough to stand on their own, just like Seplat. What do we want to do? This is the demand scenario in Nigeria. As at today, if you sat down today and said you were looking at 2030, we need to make available in the high case scenario about 26 BCF of gas a day. The critical message is that come 2030, if all stakeholders work together, Nigeria will consume more gas than it exports. And I think you heard the CEO of Renaissance talk about that flip of how much domestic gas can increase in the short term to drive local industrialization. That flip will be driven mainly by the power sector, which is natural. Nigeria needs more electricity coming out of its thermal power plants. There will be LNG. We have seen a significant growth in floating LNG projects, the likes of UTM and others coming up. There's also quite a significant growth in the GBI sector, methanol plants, fertilizer, and petrochemicals. Cement is also growing, new plants are coming up, and also the retail and the industrial sector. This demand scenario has moved up by about 18%. When we took the first snapshot in 2020, we were looking at about 22 BCF of gas a day. But there's been a lot of work between 2020 and now that has seen this sort of reworking of the demand structure and seeing this significant growth that is being anticipated. Where then is the supply? This is the supply scenario. Today, we have identified 20 projects that can add 4.5 BCF a day to Nigeria's current production. You heard the GCO talk about 12.5 BCF by 2030. So it is this project that will deliver it. You heard him talk about 10 BCF a day by 2017. These are the projects that will deliver it. The owners of all these projects are in the room, the key operators. They know themselves, they know what needs to be done to deliver this project. Sitting together with government, with all stakeholders, the critical unlocks for all these projects have been identified. On the government side, we are 80% there. All the operators asked for has been provided. What we are now doing at the DOGS platform is to ensure that what the producers promised they would deliver, they would actually deliver. I mean, you see the likes of Asa North, Ohaji South, Brass Fertilizer, Pokonu, Iseni, Ubeta, Obagi. These are projects that sit on the onshore phase. It will bring about 1.9 BCF a day, mostly to be used in the domestic market. Shallow offshore, about 12 BCF, about 1.2 BCF. A lot of that would go into export. Same with the deep water terrain, where about 1.4 BCF is going to be added, but again, a lot of that would be around export. I mentioned a little bit about what has happened between 2020 and now. If you look at the gas supply chart, on the left or on the right, depending if you are facing me or I'm facing you, what you would see was that between 2021 and 2023, Nigeria's gas production was actually on a slight decline. And you heard about the emergency conversations that happened. What do we need to do to move that back up? 2023 is actually a pivotal year. So in 2023, we had a new president. 2023 June, a decade of gas secretariat was formally set up and funded. In 2023, we had a focused Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, appointed in September. What we then begin to see is that Nigeria's production has actually started going back up. The most important note from that slide is that for the first time in Nigeria's history, 2025 year to date, the domestic gas consumption has crossed the 2 BCF a day mark. For a lot of the veterans in the sector, I remember David used to tell me, Ed, you know, we've been hovering around 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. But for the first time, if we continue doing what we are doing this year, Nigeria would come out of 2025 with 2 BCF a day being consumed in the domestic market. That is what we want to see as we move towards 2030, a flip in the consumption parameters where significant volumes are being consumed in the domestic market. Additional LNG projects are being taken, Train 7, Train 8, a couple of FLNG projects, and there is enough gas to drive this growth. We just need to work together collaboratively to ensure that we continue to unlock and drive this growth. There are different pillars in that first slide, and I don't have all the time to talk about it. And that is this slide. Of Nigerians having electricity at the end of the value chain. So I said I was going to focus at that other end of that chart. How do I get gas but that is not enough for electricity to get to Nigerians. What you see there is to where electricity is distributed here. Nobody has an answer to solve this problem. Ask ourselves, for each of these areas where there are challenges, what are the solutions to be able to drive solutions? And there are a lot of dilemmas on that slide. For instance, you hear the GenCos saying that they are not making money, but we know today that 2 GenCos have declared significant profits. Transcorp Power and Geregu, if you look at their books, they made a lot of profits as GenCos. So they are coming to tell us what is the learning. How can we sort of learn from them? If you look at that chart, DISCOs today are collecting 75% of their billings. In a classroom, 75% is a pass mark. So if the DISCOs who are collecting money have collected 75% of what they billed, why is the whole of this sector still not working? The problem is not with the Nigerians, because what it means is that 75% of Nigerians who have been billed for electricity have actually paid. So what else is happening? So these are all questions that are being asked. Why do we have so many A, T, and C losses of over 35%? What do we need to do? Nobody has an answer, but we are